This is a brief introduction to a crash course I created about the Great Awakening as I perceive it right now. The purpose of this crash course is to share all the things that I have compiled over time as I started connecting the dots in my own awakening. And of course, it has to do with the physical and metaphysical reality because they're both united, and I always talk about them. So we're going to go on a brief overview of all the things that we're going to talk about, and I'll explain as we go. Before I get into the content of the crash course itself, I want to talk about a couple of things. First is that the Great Awakening is the shift in consciousness that we're having. That's really what the Great Awakening is in any sense. You're going to see this word or this phrase tossed around a lot when they talk about the awakening process and the Great Awakening being the whole thing that is happening and all the aspects that these rabbit holes are bringing people into. So even though it's very daunting and complex depending on where you are in terms of waking up from the reality that you are, and I'll get into that a little bit more, and all the things that you can discover, it doesn't have to be that way. And that's, to me, the practical side of things, and what I guess is the best value that I can give you, given my experience and my anecdotes and my own research and my own investigation, and most importantly, my own self-awareness of how this affects my reality. So that's the first thing. You're going to find that there are different types of awakenings or aspects that people are talking about. They can be political, spiritual, societal, or identity of themselves. These are all conflicting things that are coming into the collective consciousness, if you will, and everybody's playing a part in it, and there seems to be a sort of preference that people have for some and not for others, and it gets really mixed. So when we talk about the Great Awakening, it seems like we're getting into a big, very intricate rabbit hole, but it doesn't have to be that way again. Second thing that I want to say is that everybody's waking up, but they're all going through an individual awakening. This means that your awakening process won't be of interest to all, but many are resonating with it, and you will attract just them. This is very important because when we realize that we're having an awakening, we seem to think that everybody should understand this, because to us it's just a natural thing to do. That when we become aware of something that everybody else seems to be dreaming on or asleep of, then we want to share that, and we want to make or create awareness in people about this specific stuff. As you get more into this individual awakening, you're going to find that you're going to be more isolated from other people who are not resonating with the things that you're talking about, the things you're interested on, and so on. This is normal. This is very, very normal. And it's important that you are aware of this because you will be isolated. And the key thing here is that as you become isolated, you will continue to resonate with other people, and people will resonate with you. You will start creating the people or the groups that you want to be with because they talk about the same things you are interested in. You can see this in society in general. When we have an interest, we seem to gravitate towards that people, and that people seems to gravitate towards us. So here is no different. This is important also because there seems to be a natural conflict of interest sometimes when, say, I'm interested in the political Great Awakening that is happening right now, and others are more into the spiritual or metaphysical aspect of things. And I would love to share, my political sides or views with them, but they don't really want to talk about that. But in the same way, they want to talk to me about some spiritual stuff that in their own sense, I'm not really interested. So you can see that this, you should always leave to resonance, and that's it. Your heart knows who to follow, and their hearts know if they want to follow you. So this is crucial, knowing that everybody's going through an individual awakening, and you have to let them go through their own perception of things, and you have to go through your own as well. Now, the other thing is that everything is based on your individual calling and much needed inner work to become who you are meant to be. The whole purpose of this awakening is for you to listen to your own calling, what you want to follow. If you want to get into certain things that others are around you are not interested, go and follow it. you're gonna find nothing can be a huge change like this in your process cannot happen without you letting go of many things. And especially it's going to be a lot of letting go of your inner things, because as you awake, you realize that it's painful to know that you have been deceived and have been painted an illusion around you. So you have to do a lot of inner work. Inner work becomes the crucial point, if not the most important thing in this whole awakening. So that's very important. Next, we have that this is what has come to my reality, and I'm simply sharing it. As always, take what resonates and ignore the rest. I cannot stress this point enough. This is just me talking about my own experiences, the way I see things, and if you don't resonate with these things, then don't follow it, ignore them. But pick those things that resonate with you, because they always leave you with a little bit of information that you can be curious about and start getting more information about it and create your own awareness on this reality that we're all sharing and co-creating actually. The last thing before I get into this, the content of what this crash course is going to cover, is that this will be only a brief description of a much deeper rabbit hole. Like I said at the beginning, it's a huge rabbit hole. It has anything from science to suppressed history, to interdimensional beings, to your own inner work, spirituality in one sense or the other, politics, and so on. Secret science, sacred science. There's so much into it. So I really can do honor to the topics themselves. I cannot get that deep. First, because it would take too much time. Second, because I don't actually have all the information that I would love to have for me to create a very thorough course, or simply long videos and explanations of all these things. So take this just as a brief overview of all the things that I've learned over time, and that they actually help me create the reality that I am living and I'm finding myself into right now. So let's get into the content of what this is going to be. We're going to have this in 3 modules that I decided to call them. First module is going to be understanding the matrix. There's going to be 3 parts on each module. The first module, understanding the matrix, is going to be part 1. It's going to be the secret governments, beyond the cabal and the negative forces of manipulation. We need to understand this first part because we all relate to that. The secret government, we know that. We're going to get into that. The second part is going to be controlling the narrative. We know that for us to believe in an illusion, we have to follow a specific narrative. And that narrative is being played by the theater that surrounds us in this reality. So politics, science, religion, technology, history, the media, of course, they're all involved into creating this illusion that we're all living in. And we need to get a little bit deeper into that, just so we can know that this is a reality and not some fake thing that is just happening all around us. The last thing in module 1, the third part, is the end game, what they are planning and why they want to achieve it. This is, to me, very important to finish up the matrix, the control system, because a lot of people get into the pit of despair, thinking that we're doomed because they have been controlling this world for thousands of years, and now we're just at the end game of them, and they're getting also control over us. This is what they have called the New World Order, which now we call the Old World Order or the Failed World Order. There's a lot of terminology thrown into what this means, but I want to just give you at least a brief idea that we are not falling into that. We passed that point already, and all we're seeing is just the unveiling of the reality as it is. So that's going to be module 1, understanding the matrix. Module 2 is going to be learning our nature. Now that we have learned what it is, that it's the outside world, the control system and everything else, and we know that that is true, we need to find out who we truly are. And that's the purpose of this module 2, which is going to be our physical reality. Who are we? Where we come from, and what's our purpose? These are questions that we have been yearning for answers for a long time, and science has created their way to express this in a very reductionist way, at least conventional science. So we're going to get into that. That's very important for us to know who we truly are. Second part is going to be the interdimensional realities. Why? Because we know that we are parts of a physical reality, but also there are other dimensions of reality that we are a part of. So who is assisting us at an energetic or spiritual level? It's very important to keep in mind when we understand, say, the other side of our aspects of being, which is the metaphysical one. And last, in third part of module 2, we're going to talk about where we stand in the universe, the catharsis process and current energy cleansing that we're going right now. If you follow any spiritual channel, any spiritual people, they have been talking about the shift in consciousness that's happening and the energies in streaming into the planet right now for us to make this change. So we're going to touch a little bit on that and what that actually means in a practical sense for all of us. Lastly, in module 3, we're going to talk about the so-called planet Earth's ascension. This is something that we've also been talking about a lot. I talk about it in my Law of One series, where we talk about harvest and ascension, and that's material on its own. But in the first part, we're going to talk about ancient prophecies, how they knew it, and what it means today. Very important. Not just what we have in sacred text and the information that is handed down by suppressed civilizations and philosophies, but also what it means to us right now. Again, in a practical sense. I try to keep things in a very practical way for us to understand what this actually means. Second part is going to be the science of ascension. I think there is at least a group of people like me who likes to know why this is happening on a mechanistic level, why this is happening in the cosmos itself, and how does that interact with us. So we're going to get a little bit into that. Again, each one of these is a very deep rabbit hole, so I'm just going to touch briefly on the things that I know and just leave you out of your own curiosity to go and find your own investigation or research, which I think is fascinating. So it's going to be the cosmic explanation and imminent light body activation, if you heard that term. We're going to talk about that. Lastly, to finish up and wrap up this whole crash course on module 3, the third part is going to be 4D consciousness. What that means, the power of consciousness and activities we need to perform if we want to ascend to what we call in the Law of One, fourth density. Once again, practical things. I want to give you the practical things that I have learned over time that are helping me into creating this higher consciousness and understand who I am at a core level, especially where I am in this point. What is my purpose and what are the things that I need to start doing? Hint, it's all inner work, or mostly. And from there, everything stems out. So again, this is all information that I think is relevant for the people who are seeking, like me, this type of understanding. And I know it can get very deep, but I want to tell you, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling challenged by the information that is presented to you or exposed, don't fall into the fear, because that only means that you're in the right path. I'll see you in module 1.